called Nagarik app, or mobile-based citizen app. And another is poll worker and security officials were permitted to cast their vote on the PR system from their deployment location. That is also we did. And third one is a polling process. Candidates and election representatives are made mandatory to sign the election code of conduct and self-declaration from so that accountability can enhance. Additionally, voters with disabilities and those representing gender and sexual minorities are given priority to vote. They were not required to line up during the voting. And just I want to share this best practices. And under the human resource management, election code of conduct, trade union officials are not involved in the election management. Similarly, officials working in a specific local government officials cannot be assigned to the polling center of the same level. Insurance of all personnel working in election management was done. And election materials management, ensuring timely delivery of election materials to polling officers, implementing cost-effective procurement strategic, and manning materials for polling centers in a rational manner are all important aspects of successful election, which were efficiently done during the election. Election security management, how we manage the security during election. A high-level election security committee was formed, led by the election commissioner, and composed of head of various government security agencies. And we established a joint election operation center, which is the pyramid with the election commission building. And it was led by a secretary of the election commission. And same pattern, the provision of district election security committee is also in place. The district election security committee conduct an analysis of security sensitivity and implement the requirement of strategic accordingly. And voter education, what we did, voter education were deployed at the local level, and the district election office organized at least one mock poll event at each local level. Voter education was conducted through the various mediums, including television, radio, newspaper, online media, pamphlets, and flip charts were also created and distributed to both district and local level. Additionally, social media platforms were utilized for voter education purpose. And election related training on relevant topic is provided to all levels. Use of information technology was done for election management training team. And election monitoring and observation. Observers were given directives regarding their code of conduct, work, duties, rights, and responsibilities before they move to the polling center. And another is use of social media and monitoring of misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech in election. That is very careful topic during the election. The ECN established the social media monitoring mechanism in partnership with the social media companies to ensure voters receive all information related to election education through social media. We had an agreement with that company, media company, and same time we coordinate with the social media. And when we completed our election year, we have some ECN has been facing some challenges, like cyber security is a major challenges, and social media management I already mentioned. there is a misinformation, disinformation, hate speech, that will very candidate had when they get this message and information, they got damaged that his profile during this election day. So that is a big challenge. And involvement of youth. We have seen youth are not motivated for the voting because we are thinking they are maybe frustrated from the political party, political leader situation. They are not motivated. They are not willing to vote. That is also a very big challenge. And political financing and campaign financing, that is also a big challenge for the we know this very difficult, how they collect, how they distribute, how they purchase, very difficult. And obviously lastly, technology is a very important role, and a new technology, we are far behind this new technology. That is also challenges of ASEAN. And what we have future strategy, already Madam mentioned that reforming and integrated electoral law, we are submitted this draft to government, and we are waiting for this. And empowering elected members who represent different genders and social groups, fostering inclusion in all aspects of the electoral management cycle, increasing the use of technology to provide wider accessibility, expanding voter education program across diverse communities, including in local language and through the school curriculum, increasing collaboration with INGO and NGOs, think tanks, local governments, including NGOs, representing indigenous and ethnic communities, and learn from experience of other countries. These are the future strategic. And lastly, I have to conclude. Before conclude, the main aim of Election Commission of Nepal is to conduct free, fair, and impartial election in the country. So that we need fairness, transparency, and accountability, the electoral process. A fair election is certainly possible if there is no influence on the exercise of the power of the Election Commission. Always we are hoping for a peaceful and participatory election in South Asian country. If there is an issue, that will be solve the problem through conversation within all electoral stakeholders, election stakeholders. Lastly, I wish all of you for the successful upcoming election in Bangladesh. Thank you.
Thank you, His Excellency, Mr. Shamsher J.B. Rana, the Chief Election Commissioner, Nepal. Recently, a political reporter of EU Report, Mr. Nick Powell, visited Bangladesh. এবং নিক পাওয়েল এসে যে কটি বিষয়ের উপরে গুরুত্ব আরোপ করেছিলেন, তার মধ্যে একটি আপনারা জানেন যে আমাদের সংবাদকর্মী যারা আছেন, যে বিভিন্ন কোয়ার্টার থেকে বলা হচ্ছে যে বাংলাদেশে জাতিসংঘের অধীনে নির্বাচন করা যায় কিনা। তো এই বিষয়ে তারা যে কমেন্ট করেছিলেন, whether or not United Nations can administer election in any country, কোনো দেশে জাতিসংঘ নির্বাচন সংগঠন করতে পারে কিনা, সেই বিষয়ে তারা যেটি বলেছেন, the United Nations rarely conducts a nation's election and it is highly unlikely they would do so here. the government of Bangladesh would have to formally request it. বাংলাদেশের সরকারকে আগে জাতিসংঘকে একটা রিকোয়েস্ট পাঠাতে হবে, if we need or if we want United Nations to conduct election in Bangladesh. শুধু এমনি মুখে মুখে বললে হবে না যে কোনো কোয়ার্টার থেকে। And after that, a Security Council or General Assembly resolution would have to be passed. আমাদের যে অনুরোধ পত্র যাবে সেটি নিরাপত্তা পরিষদ অথবা সাধারণ পরিষদে অনুমোদন প্রাপ্ত হতে হবে, তা না হলে জাতিসংঘ বাংলাদেশে এসে নির্বাচন করতে পারবে না। And what he mentioned in his report is time is too short to realistically accomplish this before the mandated election date. So that is not possible. Realistically there is no time for that. And on top of anything, ওনারা যেটা বলেছেন, due to the primacy of the principle of national ownership, this type of assistance is rarely mandated by the United Nations. So জাতিসংঘ বাংলাদেশে এসে নির্বাচন করে দেবে এই ধরনের প্রস্তাব যারা দিয়ে থাকেন তারা যে কতটাই বিভ্রান্ত করতে চেষ্টা করেন সেটি আপনারা নিশ্চয়ই বুঝতে পেরেছেন। জাতিসংঘের পক্ষে এটি বাংলাদেশে এসে করা সম্ভব নয় এবং আমরা ইলেকশন মনিটরিং ফোরাম থেকে মনে করি যেটির কোনো প্রয়োজনও নেই। বাংলাদেশ, যেটি নেপালের হাই কমিশনার বলেছেন, যে বাংলাদেশ ইজ ডেভেলপিং ইন অল দি ফ্রন্টিয়ার্স, সো বাংলাদেশ শুড অলসো develop in developing a sustainable electoral system altogether, and that has to be under the legal framework of constitution only. এই কথাটি কিন্তু আমাদের বিদেশি যারা আজকে এসেছেন তারা বারবার বলছেন। Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome Mr. R.M.L. Ratnaik, the Chairman, Election Commission, Sri Lanka. Mr. R.M.L. Ratnaik is the sitting chairman of the Election Commission of Sri Lanka.
Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. I have pleasure and I am grateful for the invitation extended by the chairman of the Election Monitoring Forum, Professor Abid Ali, for this gathering where electoral systems of South Asia will be discussed and perspective on the 12th National Parliament election of Bangladesh. Unfortunately, I didn't get the relevant topic earlier, so I am just speaking in general terms. We noticed that there are several election observation groups as well as election monitoring groups working hand in hand to ensure transparent, free, fair and credible elections. Election management bodies need to be supported by civil organizations such as this Election Monitoring Forum too. I noticed a lot of similarities among people in Bangladesh. Their food pattern, appearance, dress style and warm hospitality are very much similar to us. Though the electoral system in Sri Lanka is quite similar to that of Bangladesh, we notice some difference as well. Here in Bangladesh, of the 350 members of the Jatiya Sangsad, 300 are directly elected seats using first past the post voting in single members constituency. Although the number is less, this is very similar to our situation. In additional 50 seats are reserved for women. It is a notable fact that the women in Bangladesh have a share in 1/7 of the seats in the parliament and a fairly sizable amount of women in elected bodies. Here, the women empowerment in Asia at its peak, I should say, if I am not wrong. The current Sangsad is scheduled to expire on 29th January 2024. As the first session of this parliament sat on 30th January 2019. We hardly see something of this kind, the scheduled elections. Although we have free, fair and credible elections, quite unfortunately, we don't have some scheduled elections. We don't know exactly when we are going to have elections. Each parliament sits for a 5-year term. This is same. There as well. Very sadly, there is always election-related crime and violence in common in both countries and in most countries of Asia. EMBs try their level best to create a level playing field in order to ensure such the support and assistance extended by election monitoring organizations of this nature are immensely beneficial to every stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ratnaik, for your valuable speech. Now I'd like to welcome Mr. Fuad Taufik, Chairman, Election Commission, Maldives. His Excellency, Mr. Fuad Taufik, Chairman, Election Commission, Maldives.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Professor Abid Ali, Professor Sajjad Hussain, Dr. Qureshi, distinguished professors, deans, administrators, Chief Justice, Honorable Elections Commissioners, Excellencies, diplomats, High Commissioner from Maldives, Deputy High Commissioner from Sri Lanka, and Consular General from Afghanistan, honorable ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, good morning, namaskar. Maldives, I want to just give a brief introduction about the Maldives, because Maldives is a very different country in nature, in size, in geography, when we look at other South Asian countries. Maldives is in the Indian Ocean, southwest of subcontinent of India, spread over 90,000 square kilometers of sea, with 1,200 small and little bigger islands. Maldives is although it has 1,200 islands, only 188 islands are officially inhabited. 175 islands are used as tourist hotels or tourist resorts. Then there are some islands just reserved for the airports only, because even the international airport is just an island. Then some factories are there in some islands, and the rest of the islands are used for agriculture purposes mainly. Most of these officially uninhabited islands have people, something like 5, 10, 15, 20. It goes depending on the size of the island. You know, so some islands are as small as just, you know, uh, something like a quarter square kilometer, and others are there as big as uh, uh, 10, 10 square kilometers. So having an election or a population census is a very difficult task for the government of Maldives. Getting all these people is not easy. Visiting all these people are also not that easy. It's very costly. But we have made a rule that the owners of all those islands should send their employees in the uninhabited islands to the nearest island where we hold, where we keep a ballot box. And also we keep a ballot box in any island which has a population above 30 people, voters above 30 people. So it's a small number, but just to give the chance to as many as possible, we keep ballot boxes, polling stations in most of the tourist resorts and some industrial islands and airports and so on. So this is about the geography, and also the islands are, some of the islands are in a ring shape which we call atolls, and within the atolls the sea is not that rough and it is comparatively shallow when we look at the sea between the atolls. They are not very calm, they are rough, and the distance also from atoll to atoll is traveling is more difficult and more distance than within the atolls. So for administrative purposes, most of the atolls are either combined together or done separately as an administrative unit. Now, when we look at the elections of the Maldives, the first election, which we call election, but it's actually a referendum, was in 1953, when the government at that time wanted to change the system of the government from a kingdom to a republic. So a vote was taken, and then the referendum, most of, very high majority of people voted for a republic. But it lasted just less than a year, and again the government was toppled, and then there was another referendum whether people want a kingdom or a republic, and people then again within a year people's mind changed and voted for a kingdom. So again in 1954 kingdom came back, and it went up to 1968. We got the independence from the British in 1965. But in the all past, we had our local king to rule the internal affairs. We didn't have the freedom for foreign affairs and defense. That will be looked after by the British. So in 1965, we got full independence, where we got the freedom to contact any outside world, and also to have our own defense republic. And since then we were having a republic form of government until now. But we had just no party system up to 2008. 2008, before 2008, around 2005, parties were allowed to form, and in 2008 was the first multi-party election that we conducted. And I was one of the members of the Interim Elections Commission in 2008. That's the time that I joined the Elections Commission, and before that I was in the civil service in the Ministry of Planning and National Development as a statistician. Then from 2008 onwards, we are having the multi-party democracies, and every 5 years we have been changing the president since 2008. But before 2008, we had a president for 30 years, and before that it was 10-year term. So 40 years we had 2 presidents, and after that every 5 years we are having a new president. It was last month on the 9th, there was the first round of the presidential election. Nobody got 50%, and then the first 2 I have to go for the second round, and the one who got the maximum votes in the first round also got the more than 50% votes, and he is the president-elect now. Then regarding our political system, I just want to say that our government always try to have a very non-aligned, neutral foreign policy. But depending on the person, sometimes the friendship with some countries become more, and some countries become a little mild. But I don't think we can be called a pro-China or a pro-Indian country, because we have equal relations with all the countries of the region, including India, China, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, and UK, US, anywhere. I mean, we have good relations. And at the moment, but I mean, our relation with Israel is kind of, not very good. But we support the Palestinian, movement for independence. So, but because of the media, and also because of the social media, sometimes, some of our presidents are either, aligned to one of the powers, but even the president-elect very clearly said that he is only pro-Maldives, and he will see the benefit of the Maldives only, and he will accept the friendship from any country that offers the friendship. I just want to a little highlight this, because as I I mean, every time when I meet somebody, you know, I'm always asked about, you know, this question, whether we are, you know, aligned with the China or we are aligned with the India. Both the countries are very friendly countries to the Maldives. So the elections commission, and again, when we go back to the elections from 1953, after that, there were parliaments in the, I mean, or just one parliament, House, House of Common People, and the size of it changes from time to time. And from 2008 onwards, the counting, the voting, counting, everything is done in front of the observers, monitors, and representatives from the candidates. So the votes, the ballot box is opened in the polling station in front of the presentees. The inside is shown to the people, then it is closed, then one by one people are called for voting. They put they vote, and once the time voting is over, there will be a break of 30 minutes to prepare the documents, and then in front of everybody the ballot box is opened and counted in front of everybody. And if any observers ask about the mark on it, they will slow down, show it to the people. People are watching, you know, about from a distance of 5 feet. So it's announced there, and pasted the result on the wall of the polling station, and that result is sent to the media and also to the Elections Commission, and the Elections Commission do the compilation and do the verification whether there is a addition mistake or inconsistency, and if there is no problem, it will be published. If there is any problem, it will be questioned, verified, and corrected and announced. So this is the system that we are going, very transparent system, very open, and there is nothing that we hide to the people of the Maldives, to the voters of the Maldives, or even to the outsiders of the Maldives who are coming to. And we open our elections for everybody to come and observe. Uh, that's all. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for inviting me to attend this program, especially to EMF and its chairman, Professor Abid Ali. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fuad Tawfiq. Before we have plenty of time before the lunch, so before we hear from Dr. S.I. Quraishi, I'd like to invite two more people from Bangladesh. Engineer Monir, Director Power Cell. Bangladesh, as you know, Bangladesh is trying to become resilient in power sector, and now we have different energy mix going on in Bangladesh. We are using coal, we are using nuclear power, we are using solar, and also other sources. We are using gas. So Power Cell is one of the major contributors, and I would now like to welcome Engineer Monir to come over the dais and speak a few words on this occasion.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say something, election motion forum, and I just thanks President, Chairman of this session. Distinguished guest from our neighboring country and the journalist here. I just want to, I have been listening all this thing, and especially from Dr. Sajjad's, the keynote speakers, he just very brave and bold to express the actual situation now. Like people like, we are under tremendous pressure and different type of actually I, at my abnormal actually it is a I should say it is a completely out of the natural influence, external influence is imposing in our country situation right now in the eve of the upcoming election. And the government is progressing to highly, and he has mentioned this thing, power division also, including many other sectors, is progressing and rapid progressing of the under the government and successive 2 terms and 3 terms of this government. Things are approaching to yeah. And under doing this thing, they are just geographical politics. There is a lot of issues is upcoming, and that they just blame us, and they just create a huge pressure on us to make to mold the whole things here. I would request, I'll just after my Mr. Qureshi, he's the very Indian election, because it's a very big country, so their election system, I'll just hear what type of nature actually the issue came from the from US envoy here in our Bangladesh. What is their approaches? And they are just moving like a just colonial state. They are approaching like this, and this type of influence actually they are just creating throughout our civil society and all society. And they are just influencing, okay, just without mentioning anything, actually what is their policy, they just impose sanctions, something like this. So there is very few people like Dr. Sajjad, he just boldly say many things, but very few of the government officials right now, they are very scared because their family, their kids are studying abroad, they just don't bother all these things. This type of comfortable situation is rise and prevailing is now a situation. And you are the very expert in our regional democratic countries, so you handle the lot of elections in this situation. I would request you to please share us what type of attitude it is this, and how we can in a collective way to protest all the situation. And I will also request our journalists to raise they just get some points out of them from all of you, to they can highlight and actually share all the situation to our people. Nowadays, actually, we are really confused, because the media, social media, and the Western media all are manipulating, and they are just imposing a lot of fake news. Just they have the lot of rumors. They are just creating the perception, wrong perception, and they just impose, and they are just placing the present government in a questionable, and all institutions, they just make it a questionable situation. And also, I would personally request you to, what would be the role of the opposition parties? They should have some power. It is not only the role of the sitting parties, also it is a collective of everybody should have some responsible role to conduct a good elections. And but a particular group is there just to make this the questionable. So please, thank you for your question.
Thank you, Engineer Munir. Now we'd like to hear from Major General Tauhid Muhammad. I'd now request Major General Tauhid Muhammad to come over the dais and speak a few words.
Distinguished guests, excellencies, and foreign colleagues visiting us this morning. Very good afternoon. I first of all thank the organizer and the anchor of today's program, Professor Dr. Abed Ali, Chairman. and for inviting me to say very few words. And I'm really impressed. This is the right time to have a session where we can educate each other, understanding the situation of upcoming election for Bangladesh. I appreciate Professor Dr. Sajjad Hussain for his wonderful, very much inspirational and strong delivery as keynote speech on this particular issue, what we are dealing today. We have to really raise our voice, what is right and what is wrong. And he has exactly articulated that. And following him, all the presenters could really identify what is to be done and what is not to be done for maintaining our democratic culture in the Bangladesh. I would just like to, I'm not a professional, as I had been in the military for 36 years and now more like a freelance. So there, as a general citizen of the country, I would like to highlight 2-3 issues as a common people of the society. There has to be continued efforts by the ruling party to secure and ensure the election environment in the country. The government has to ensure the environment, election environment in the country. And all other parties, all other political parties has to respect that. We are a democratic country by our constitution. There are different other options that could be a secular country, that can be some other kind of democratic, other than democratic culture. There are other type of political arrangement could be there, but we have accepted democratic culture and the constitution. So let us try to accept that and look forward for that. Understanding the people's perception, the second point, and focus engagement. We must understand that there are two worlds now, virtual world and the physical world. So we have to counter the misinformation. People are absolutely in some kind of misunderstanding or chaos that what is happening in the society. Please, those who have come from different countries of the world or our neighboring countries, that's not the reality. There has to be a connection between what is there in the virtual world, what we see and read, and what is there in the reality. There is something really good what we can take pride in. Overcrowded political propaganda making much people confused, whereas reality in political world is quite different. This is not what we actually see on ground. Few points for the political parties to consider. All political parties should proceed respecting constitution. Nothing can be good making a shortcut to that. So let us look for what we can do to have a free, fair, and inclusive election end of this year or next year. All parties should look for honest and competent candidates to nominate, which will be the key to win. So we have to focus on something, that we have to prepare for the upcoming election and look for the right candidates so that we can win. It's not that having some other effort to win. So not by looking for creating a chaos in the society and welcome a non-democratic body to establish democracy of their choice. This is a very important point to know. We cannot bring in something non-democratic to establish democracy in a country. Let us not look back to our history where we had some kind of miscarriages. We are not ready to accept that. The new generation will never accept that. So we want to look forward. The way my son feels, the culture, heritage, and the history of the country, we want to look forward with that. The next generation, the generation of my son and daughter, they exactly understand what will be the country. And this is how we are progressing. So there is a requirement of continuation of the growth of the development what we are having today. Lastly, I would like to say, let us look for what is good for the mass people, not for the good only for the political parties to come in power. We say people are the power, but once we are in the authority, we don't mean it. So let us look with the interest of we have to ensure the people's interest, and definitely we will look for the right party to lead the country. And thank you very much for the organizer and giving me this small scope to say something. Thank you, and thank you, Professor Sajjad, for a wonderful, inspirational keynote speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Major General Tawhid. Bangladesh has many challenges coming up. First of all, we had this challenge of meeting the MDG goals and targets. We have done it. We have done it very successfully. Now, ahead of us, we have another challenge. That is, by the year 2026, Bangladesh will be graduating out of the least developing countries. You all know. So that will be another challenge for us. And where until 2026, we'll have to maintain a proper score and appropriate score on 3 indices you already know: the GNI per capita, human asset index, and also the economic vulnerability index. So we'll have to maintain our score in these 3 areas. And after that, we'll have to achieve the SDG goals, you know, the Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 goals and 169 targets. We'll have to achieve that. We also have a vision which is called Vision 2041. And by 2041, Bangladesh wants to be resilient in energy sector. We want to be completely resilient in energy sector. And also we want to be resilient in transportation sector. We want to translate distance into hours, minutes, and seconds. We don't want to translate distance in kilometers or miles anymore. That is our target by 2041. And that is how we are progressing with a proper strategic plan. Bangladesh has now a master plan for everything. For the first time in its history, Bangladesh has a master plan. And not only until 2041, we have a Delta plan. Bangladesh wants to have a cohesive economic and environmental footing. So, standing in the year 2023 up to 2100, now we have a master plan set out for next 77 years. We all understand and know that we need a continuation of this. And we don't want our democratic process to be interrupted. Because what that can cause, I told you in the beginning. In the 16 years of undemocratic government, we could add only $23 to our per capita income. We don't want to go back to that country anymore. Now, Bangladesh's policy, the foreign policy, is friendship to all and malice to none. It's quite well established and understood. Now, in the region, we see a bit of tension. And that tension has come in the form of Indo-Pacific strategy. And we all understand and know, because our guests are also from this region, the future of the world's trade, economy, and everything will include and involve this particular zone, the Indo-Pacific zone, where Bangladesh is a stakeholder, India is a stakeholder, Maldives is a stakeholder, Nepal, Sri Lanka, everyone is a stakeholder. Now, due to the supremacy, to establish supremacy and control over the region, of which Bangladesh cannot probably directly benefit right now, we don't want to be part of it. So Bangladesh said, no, okay. Instead of Indo-Pacific strategy, Bangladesh has put forward their own, very own Indo-Pacific outlook. And the talks are going on that. So that is an area which probably can answer many questions, as you have outlined and raised today. Why things are happening like this? Why people are trying to violate Vienna Convention? So, ladies and gentlemen, before the lunch, let me welcome and our last speaker, sorry, not the last speaker, we'll also invite our chairman of the Election Monitoring Forum later on. But from among the guest of honors, our last speaker today is Dr. S.I. Quraishi, the former Chief Election Commission, India. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. S.Y. Quraishi on the dais.
Assalamu alaikum. Ladies and gentlemen, I would not name everybody because that takes time. But Justice, Professor Abid, our host, and my fellow panel, I'm extremely grateful, Professor Abid, for you inviting us to a great function, great event. It's a very important learning process for us. I bring some experience from India. I heard my panelists from Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Maldives, and with whom we have interacted over long periods of time, and also Bangladesh. I would like to mention that Global South has been in the news lately, and there also Indo-Pacific region has assumed a lot of importance, and that seems to be the underlying theme of this conference. I would like to mention that 60% of the world's democracy lives in South and Southeast Asia, in the Indo-Pacific region, 60%. And in just 9 countries of the SAARC region, 40% of the democracy of the world lives. Out of 200 countries, just 9 countries have 40% of democracy. That's how important this region is. But how much of international attention do we get? Very little. We need to strengthen democracy, particularly in geopolitical context. We talk of China, China's authoritarian regime, the dictatorship, but it is encircled by all democracies. All SAARC countries except maybe Afghanistan, they're all democracies, and successful democracies at that. Now, citizens' vigil and involvement in the election process is extremely important, which is what Professor Abid's organization seeks to achieve. I think nothing can be more important than that. We in India are very conscious, very particular about it, and we have made the Election Commission of India citizen-centric. In 2006, when I took over as election commissioner, I found the voter turnout to be very low. In the metros and big cities, 20%, 25%. I said, this is not acceptable. Many people in the election commission itself opposed the idea. They said, educating voters is not our job. Our job is just to conduct the elections. I said, no, nothing doing. Because low voter turnout raises the question about the legitimacy of the elected representatives. Suppose 20% people have voted, there are 10 candidates, the winner gets 12%, 88% people have not voted for him. Is he a real legitimate representative of the constituency? Maybe not. Technically, legally, yes, but in effect, not really, because 88% people have not voted. Therefore, voter turnout becomes important. That was the time when there used to be a demand that there should be compulsory voting. I used to say compulsion and democracy don't go together. Your right to vote includes your right not to vote. In fact, sir, you have written, I believe, 200 books on law. This is a question whether voting is a constitutional right, has gone to the Supreme Court many times. They say it's not a constitutional right, it is a statutory right. But recently, in one judgment famously called Nota judgment, none of the above option when it was provided on the machine, the Supreme Court went to the extent of saying that your right not to vote is your fundamental right. Right not to vote is a fundamental right, right to vote is not. So therefore, the citizen's choice is extremely important. I am very happy to say, when I used to say that voter education is the answer, we set up a voter education division in the ministry, and the very first election with that was Bihar 2010, and we achieved highest voter turnout in history. We targeted women, more women turned out to vote than men. We targeted youth, their number, they used to be just 10, 12, 13, 14% youth who were participating, but they have now, it has not gone up to 80% because we had focus for voter education program addressed to them. I am very happy to inform you that 4 or 5 years ago, our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, in one of his Man Ki Baat program, monthly program, he praised the Election Commission's effort. He said that the Election Commission has now become citizen friendly and citizen centric. Now, which is perhaps also the theme of your conference. You want the citizens to get involved. I got the feeling ever since I arrived that citizens are a little apathetic. They are indifferent to the coming election. That's very, very bad. It's very counterproductive. I even hear of boycott calls. In India also, sometimes some village is unhappy and they say we boycott. Whose loss is it? Only theirs. It doesn't matter. If I boycott and if I don't vote, so what am I losing? One possibility is that my vote can make a difference. In fact, in India, many elections have been won and lost by one vote. For all you know, it could be your vote. Therefore, citizens should not think in terms of boycotting elections. Now, I mentioned the importance of SAARC regions, 40% of democracy. About 12 years ago, at the initiative of Bangladesh, in fact, we formed an organization called FEMBOSA, Forum of Election Management Bodies of South Asia. It has started very enthusiastically. It is doing very well. But lately, I haven't heard much. I don't know who is the chairman this year. But that organization needs to be strengthened. Nepal is the chairman. So now that organization needs to be strengthened. It needs to be encouraged. And we can do information sharing. We have to learn from each other. Now, Nepal has mixed system, FPTP and PR, proportional representation. That is a demand which is going on in India, but Nepal has done it. We used to talk of Germany, German model, but it is good, but it is a little complicated. They have simplified it and they're doing it. We can learn. Simultaneous election is another demand in our country, but simultaneous election is also happening in Nepal. So there is so much we can learn from Nepal, even if it is a small state. So every country has its own experience, its own wisdom, and we can learn from each other. Now, in the entire debate, the credibility of the Election Commission is extremely critical and crucial. I hear in Pakistan and now in Bangladesh, caretaker government. We never have a demand for caretaker government in India. Although our election is as big as 90 countries rolled into one. Why? Because Election Commission itself is the caretaker government. Almost the entire power shifts to the Election Commission. The government cannot take any decision even in the cabinet. They cannot even discuss a proposal in the cabinet, because if it is leaked out that government is planning to do something very good for the citizens, so they get the political advantage, even to bring the agenda before the cabinet, they have to seek the approval of the election commission. So election commission is the caretaker government. Only yesterday in India, a very big order that every government servant will be promoting the achievements of the government over the last 9 years. It was shot down by election commission yesterday. It's all over the newspapers. So there is that kind of power, because the day elections are announced, election commission becomes the so-called, not exactly, not technically, not legally, but virtually, it becomes the government, and people have trust in it. So that is why we need to strengthen the election commission. The framers of India's constitution were very far-sighted. You may not know, many people in India don't know, that election commission of India was created a day before India was born as a republic. A day before, because that was important, that first the election commission, then Republic of India comes. Then they made it extremely independent, autonomous. I'm a former civil servant, but once I joined the election commission, I have to resign from the government, cut off all relationship with the government, because now I'm independent. And the same government which appoints me cannot touch me, cannot remove me, except like a judge of the Supreme Court through a process of impeachment. So with that independence, Election Commission of India actually has the credibility. I had forwarded 4 pictures to be shown on the screen, because they, as they say, a picture says 1,000 words. But unfortunately, the technical expertise here is a little wanting. But let me try whether this iPad thing can be visible or somebody can enlarge it. Do you see these 2 gentlemen sitting together and laughing? And here's a quiz. One of them is a losing chief minister, the other is a winning chief minister. Can you make out who? Because even the loser is happy, because if he felt cheated by the election commission, they would not have been sitting like this. Can you imagine Joe Biden and Donald Trump sitting together? Can you think of similar thing in your country? No. No, but in India it is possible, only because this is a statement of 1,000 words on the credibility of the election commission. The same 2 gentlemen embracing each other. Now, after the 2014 election, in election speeches they criticize each other. Here is new Prime Minister, incoming Prime Minister Modi, went with a bouquet to the outgoing Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, and this is how transition of power is smooth in the country. So it is seamless. There is no conflict. The losing chief minister, prime minister, hands over the chair to the winning chief minister with folded hands. No acrimony, no. Now they are going inside to brief each other. So this is the kind of democracy we have because of the credible elections, which is what you should seek to achieve. I believe the Election Commission of Bangladesh has all the powers that we have. Why don't they just assert themselves? Why is their credibility in doubt? Why is it that USA has to say that somebody else from outside will conduct election? I entirely agree with whatever I heard earlier. This is an obnoxious proposal. How can a sovereign country accept somebody else coming and conducting your election? You have an election commission, constitutionally constituted, and hopefully with credibility. So now in India, something which you can learn very quickly even now, we have a model code of conduct. It is a code of conduct devised by political parties for their own good behavior. It is not a law. They themselves decided that they will not disturb each other's meeting. They will not abuse each other. And most importantly, there is a chapter called Chapter 7, which is conditions imposed on the government of the day, that you will not abuse the resources that you have. Government staff will not be used. Government transport will not be used. And that you will not make new announcements on the eve of election to seduce the voters. No. If under the Election Commission, we have changed Chief Secretary, Home Secretary, DGP, on the slightest suspicion that they were not neutral. Neutrality is non-negotiable. So, now if you, I would like to suggest to your Election Commission, just pick up a moral code of conduct of India and adopt it totally, because it has tested legal scrutiny and tested, time tested. Now finally I would like to talk about the media. Media on the one hand is our watchdog, which we welcome. We could have treated them with hostility, and they could have treated us as hostile, but we decided that actually they are our eyes and ears. What we are trying to see, if there is any malpractice happening on the ground, they are showing us through their cameras. So we should, in my time, we should directions to our entire staff in the country, that if you see on television some malpractice happening, take it as a complaint, formal order from the Election Commission, and start an inquiry. Don't wait for us to give you an order. If you read anything on everybody else, and that way they are helping us, they are with us in it. And finally, ADR. We have an organization, a very famous, and you should invite them sometime, Association for Democratic Reforms. It's an organization formed by 5 professors of different universities many years ago, and they are watchdogs of Indian election. Constantly, they're keeping an eye and point out how many people with criminal background are coming to Parliament, how many crororepatis have come to Parliament, what is happening when they become MPs and MLAs. So all these things, there are some lessons. So you don't have to go very far. Europe will not teach you. America will not teach you. You can learn from each other in the neighborhood, in the SAARC region. Sambosa can play that role. With these words, I suggest that you do a quick study of what is happening around, and there are lessons to learn from the neighborhood itself. You don't have to go very far. With these, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my experience. Thank you. I have a knee problem.
Thank you, Dr. Qureshi, for your valuable speech. Let me share you the constitutional provisions for the Election Commission of Bangladesh. First of all, as Dr. Qureshi said, very much like the Indian Election Commission, Bangladesh Election Commission is also independent. And Election Commission of Bangladesh enjoys the full immunity under the constitutional provisions. No commissioner of the Election Commission can be removed, very much like India, without an impeachment through the parliament. So those things are there. And this is a constitutional body. There are 2 constitutional bodies in Bangladesh. One is Election Commission, and the other one is Bangladesh Public Service Commission. So these 2 bodies are constitutional bodies. And Election Commission conducts election through Article 118 to 126 of the Constitution. And in the Article 120 and 126 of the Constitution of Bangladesh, it is clearly said that during election, the civil administration and the administrations related to law enforcement, they come under the jurisdiction of the Election Commission. And for anything, if they require or should they require, President of the country is bound to provide necessary support. So those things are all given there. Of course, with the experience of Indian High Commission and the other elections, sorry, Indian Election Commission and other election commissions of the subcontinent, we can further enrich and reinforce our laws. And also the Election Commission conducts election under 8 more electoral rules they have, not only under the provisions of the election constitution, also there are 8 rules for running the election. And so these things are there in place. কাজেই যেটি আমরা বলছিলাম যে আমাদের বাংলাদেশের যে ইলেকটোরাল সিস্টেম টোটাল, সেটি কিন্তু পৃথিবীর অনেক দেশের সাথেই খুবই সামঞ্জস্যপূর্ণ, মানসম্পন্ন, বিশ্বমানেরও। শুধু এর প্রয়োগ নিয়ে এবং এর যারা স্টেক হোল্ডার, নির্বাচনের স্টেক হোল্ডার কিন্তু সবাই, ইলেকশন কমিশন রানস দি ইলেকশনস। হ্যাঁ, ডেফিনেটলি যেটি ইন্ডিয়ান হাই কমিশনার ইন্ডিয়ান ইলেকশন কমিশনার বলেছেন যে মানুষের মধ্যে নির্বাচনে অংশগ্রহণটাকে কিন্তু এনকারেজ করার দায়িত্ব কিন্তু ইলেকশন কমিশনের আওতার মধ্যে পড়ে, সেটি তাদের করা উচিত। ইলেকশন প্রশ্নবিদ্ধ হয় তখনই যখন আমরা দেখি যে কোনো অস্বাভাবিক ফলাফল নির্বাচন কমিশন কর্তৃক ঘোষণা করা হয়ে যায়। এই জায়গাটিতে আমরা বারবারই আমরা ইলেকশন মনিটরিং ফোরামের পক্ষ থেকে প্রফেসর আবেদ আলী এবং আমাদের অন্যান্য পরিচালকবৃন্দ আমরা কিন্তু নির্বাচন কমিশনের সাথে বিভিন্ন সময় কথা বলেছি এবং আমরা এই বিষয়টিতে আমরা জোর দিয়েছি যে নির্বাচনের ফলাফল যেন বাস্তবসম্মত হয়। আমাদের দেশে সাধারণত একটা নির্বাচনে, একটা ক্রেডিবল নির্বাচনে, আমাদের কিন্তু অনেকগুলো ক্রেডিবল নির্বাচন হয়েছে, আবার অনেকগুলো হয়নি, সেই বাস্তবতাটা কিন্তু আমরা জানি এবং মানি। কিন্তু সাধারণত কত পার্সেন্ট হয়ে থাকে, হতে পারে? এখন যদি আমরা কোথাও দেখি যে 100%-এর বেশি ভোট গ্রহণ করা হয়েছে, সেটা যদি নির্বাচন কমিশন ঘোষণা করে, তাহলে কিন্তু সেটি আমাদের পক্ষে মানা সম্ভব হয় না। আমরা ইলেকশন মনিটরিং ফোরাম আমরা যেটি চাই সেটি হচ্ছে বাংলাদেশে একটি সুষ্ঠু নির্বাচনের ধারা প্রতিষ্ঠিত হবে আগামী যে বাংলাদেশে আমরা পদার্পণ করতে যাচ্ছি। এবং সেই জন্যই কিন্তু আমাদের 20,000 কর্মী এবং আমাদের পরিচালনা পরিষদ সবাই আমরা এই লক্ষ্যেই কাজ করে যাচ্ছি। একটা খুব সাস্টেইনেবল ডেভেলপমেন্ট গোলসের মধ্যে কিন্তু একটা বড় গোল যেটি আমাদের থাকা উচিত, দ্যাট ইজ টু স্ট্যাবলিশ এ সাস্টেইনেবল ইলেকটোরাল সিস্টেম, যেটা নিয়ে প্রতি বছর প্রতিটা ইলেকশনের সামনে এসে আমাদেরকে বারবার কথা বলতে হবে না। দ্যাট ইজ হোয়াট উই ওয়ান্ট টু সি অ্যান্ড স্ট্যাবলিশ ইন দিস কান্ট্রি। দ্যাট ইজ আওয়ার গোল, দ্যাট ইজ ওয়াই উই আর ওয়ার্কিং, দ্যাট ইজ ওয়াই ইলেকশন মনিটরিং ফোরাম ইজ ওয়ার্কিং ইন দিস কান্ট্রি। সো লেডিজ অ্যান্ড জেন্টলম্যান, আমার মনে হয় ইট ইজ অলমোস্ট অ্যাবাউট দ্য টাইম ফর লাঞ্চ। তার আগে আমরা আমাদের এই ফোরামের মাননীয় চেয়ারম্যান অধ্যাপক আবেদ আলী, তার কাছ থেকে শুনব। তিনি একজন অত্যন্ত একনিষ্ঠ এবং দক্ষ সংগঠক, যার ফলেই কিন্তু আমরা দেশি বিদেশি বিভিন্ন পর্যবেক্ষকদেরকে বিভিন্ন সময় আমরা আমাদের এই ফোরামের মাধ্যমে আমন্ত্রণ করতে পারছি। এবং শুধু আমন্ত্রণ করতে পারছি তা নয়, এমন কখনো হয়নি যে প্রফেসর আবেদ আলী আমন্ত্রণ জানিয়েছেন ইলেকশন মনিটরিং ফোরাম থেকে আর সেখানে আমরা রেসপন্স পাইনি, এটিও কিন্তু হয়নি। সো ইউ অলওয়েজ গট রেসপন্স, ভেরি পজিটিভ রেসপন্স ফ্রম all the election observers and our guests we invited so far. And today also we have very distinguished guests of honor from South Asia. And we are grateful to all of you, sir, His Excellencies, Her Excellencies, everyone, that you have taken all the troubles to come to Bangladesh and make this event a very successful one. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Professor Abed Ali.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম ওয়া রাহমাতুল্লাহ। উপস্থিত আজকের এই সেমিনারের অতিথিবৃন্দু, সাংবাদিকগণ, সকলকে আন্তরিক শুভেচ্ছা। আপনারা দীর্ঘক্ষণ আলোচনা শুনেছেন, বিশেষ করে ভারত, মালদ্বীপ, নেপাল এবং শ্রীলঙ্কার নির্বাচন কমিশনাররা এসেছেন, ওনারা কথা বলেছেন। অত্যন্ত দুঃখের বিষয় যে স্বাধীনতার 50 বছর পরে এসে বাংলাদেশের নির্বাচনটা কিভাবে হবে সেটা নিয়ে আমরা জনগণ ভাবতে হচ্ছে। সরকার যায় আসে, নির্বাচনটাকে বিতর্কিত করে। আমরা নাগরিক সমাজের পক্ষ থেকে এটা একটি গ্রহণযোগ্য সমাধান আমরা চাই। বর্তমান পরিস্থিতিতে যে রাজনৈতিক পরিস্থিতি সৃষ্টি হয়েছে, আমরা মনে করি সংঘাত, সংঘর্ষ বা ধ্বংসাত্মক কর্মসূচি দিয়ে এটা সমাধান হবে না, সলিউশন হবে না। আলোচনার মাধ্যমে, সমঝোতার মাধ্যমে এটি সলিউশন হতে পারে, সমাধান হতে পারে, এবং এর জন্য সরকারকে উদ্যোগ নিতে হবে। যেহেতু সরকার ক্ষমতায় আছে, সরকারকে এই আলোচনার জন্য উদ্যোগ নেওয়ার জন্য আমরা ইলেকশন মনিটরিং ফোরামের পক্ষ থেকে আহ্বান জানাচ্ছি। মনে রাখতে হবে, সরকার যেহেতু ক্ষমতায় আছে, কিছুটা ছাড় দিয়ে হলেও যারা ইলেকশনে পার্টিসিপেট করবে, নির্বাচনে অংশগ্রহণ করবে, তাদের সাথে একটু আলোচনা করা উচিত। অংশগ্রহণমূলক নির্বাচন না হলে, সকল দল যদি অংশগ্রহণ না করে, সেই নির্বাচন কখনোই গ্রহণযোগ্য হতে পারে না। আমরা মনে করি সকল দলকে নির্বাচনে আনতে একটি আস্থার জায়গাকে সৃষ্টি করার জন্য সরকারের বড় একটি উদ্যোগ প্রয়োজন রয়েছে। নির্বাচন কমিশন যতই শক্তিশালী হোক না কেন, যদি সেখানে কোনো প্রভাব বিস্তার করা হয়, তাহলে একটি গ্রহণযোগ্য নির্বাচন হতে পারে না। সরকার এই জায়গাটাতে ক্লিয়ার করতে হবে যে সরকার নির্বাচন কমিশনের প্রতি কোনো প্রকার প্রভাব বিস্তার করবে না। তাহলেই বিরোধী দল বলেন যারা নির্বাচনে অংশগ্রহণ করতে চাচ্ছে না, তারাও আশ্বস্ত যদি হতে পারে যে সরকার নির্বাচন কমিশনের প্রতি হস্তক্ষেপ করবে না, তাদের ক্ষমতা বা সংবিধানে যাদের যে ক্ষমতা দেওয়া হয়েছে সেটা প্রয়োগের ক্ষেত্রে সরকার বা প্রশাসন বা এর সাথে সম্পৃক্ত যারা আছেন তারা ইলেকশন কমিশনকে প্রভাবিত করবে না। এই নিশ্চয়তাটুকু দিলে আমি আশা করি বিএনপি সহ যারা সমমনা রয়েছেন তারাও নির্বাচনে অংশগ্রহণ করবেন। আমরা প্রতিবারেই বলে আসছি, আমরা এখনও প্রত্যাশা করছি, আজকেও প্রত্যাশা করছি যে বিএনপি সহ সকল দল আগামী নির্বাচনে অংশগ্রহণ করবে। পরিশেষে আমি আর বিশেষ কিছু না বলে, আগামীকালকে আমাদের কমিশনার বিন্দু নির্বাচন কমিশনের সাথে আলোচনা আছেন এবং আরও বেশ কিছু রাজনৈতিক ব্যক্তির সাথে আমরা মত বিনিময় করব। আমরা একটাই উদ্দেশ্য, গ্রহণযোগ্য, নিরপেক্ষ, শান্তিপূর্ণ একটি নির্বাচন এ জাতি যেন পায়, এবং এই জন্য সংবাদকর্মী, মানবাধিকার কর্মী, সমাজকর্মী যারা আছেন সকলের সহযোগিতা প্রয়োজন। আমি মনে করি যেটা প্রফেসর জব্বার সাহেব বলেছেন, ইলেকশন কমিশন তাদের নিরপেক্ষতার জায়গাটুকুকে ক্লিয়ার করতে হবে। যে সমস্ত জায়গায় অস্বাভাবিক ভোট পড়ে, আমরা পরবর্তী সময়ে দেখি এটার কোনো সলিউশন হয় না। যে কেন্দ্রে 100%-এর বেশি ভোট হয় সেই কেন্দ্রেরও রেজাল্ট ঘোষণা করা হয়। সেজন্য নির্বাচন কমিশনকে এই জায়গাটুকুতে কঠিন হতে হবে এবং সেখানে কোনো প্রকার ছাড় দেওয়া যাবে না। বিশেষ করে সংবিধান যে ক্ষমতা দিয়েছে নির্বাচন কমিশনকে, সেখানে কোনো প্রকার কম্প্রোমাইজ না করলে নির্বাচন কমিশনের প্রতি সাধারণ মানুষের আস্থা আসবে বলে আমি বিশ্বাস করি। সকলকে ধন্যবাদ জানিয়ে আমি আমার বক্তব্য শেষ করছি এবং আজকের সভাকে আমি সমাপ্তি ঘোষণা করছি। আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
ধন্যবাদ প্রফেসর আবেদ আলী। So we have come to the completion or end of our program. So the program will now be followed by lunch. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite you all for the lunch. Thank you.